Hi, I'm Denise Chaffin, and I am your podcast host for Talking TA. Welcome to our Talking TA Tech Stack, where innovation meets talent acquisition. If you're feeling overwhelmed by all of the tools out there promising to make hiring faster, easier, and smarter, then this series is for you. In each episode, we'll sit down with top tech service providers who aren't just selling solutions, but they're also sharing their insights, strategies, and game-changing ideas so that we can build the ultimate TA tech stacks for our organizations. So whether you're hunting for a new ATS, a digital note-taking platform, or perhaps you need to improve your candidate engagement, or maybe you just want to stay ahead in the ever-changing and ever-evolving world of TA, let's talk tech. Hi, I'm Denise Chaffin, and I am your podcast host for Talking TA. And today I have with me Mike Stafiej from ERIN. And ERIN is Employee Referral Invitation Network platform. And so I am super excited to speak with you, Mike, find out about ERIN, because this has been a conversation, honestly, that I have had with a number of people over the last year. So I look forward to hearing about your company and about your background and what kind of got you started.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, company name is ERIN. It is an acronym, so everybody always asks, like, why is it called ERIN? What we do is we help large businesses automate the employee referral process, and then by doing that, we can create a much better experience for the employees, yielding more referrals in general. So an oversimplification of kind of the outcome that we're driving is more hires from referrals. We're helping people change where that talent's coming from, usually at a more cost-effective rate, much faster. And the other thing we really have been focusing on this year is even the retention of those employees.
A couple of questions come up. Number one, who is utilizing this platform right now? Is it more like employees or employers that are purchasing it then and having their employees use it?
Yeah, yeah. Good question. And yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can approach solving this problem, right? This could even be a direct to consumer play, which is kind of how we started. But we are a B2B SaaS model, right? So we sell to um, uh, businesses, and then all we're selling them is a license to use our product to automate the policy they already have, right? So we're selling to the employers, then they're actually having their employees use it, usually under a completely different name. It's very rare that an employee actually knows what ERIN is. They're branding it fully for the experience they want their employees to have around their company brand and their marketing efforts.
Okay, so when they purchase this product then and the employee doesn't know it's ERIN, so basically they're using their own ATS. I mean, this is kind of being integrated in with their ATS?
100%. Yeah. So we're integrating not only with the ATS, but also the HRS and payroll. So the goal is from referral to payment, it's fully automated behind the scenes. And while that might sound like a nice thing to say and kind of easy, all the nuanced eligibility requirements in between that process are being checked at multiple stages. So something as simple as, hey, did somebody else refer them before me? Or something as complicated as, like, is the person referring them part of the hiring manager team, or has this person worked here in the last 12 months? Whatever their policy says, we're bringing that into automation, not only to alleviate the administrative headache, but creating a much more real-time experience for the employee. We're getting rid of that black hole of, hey, what happened to my buddy? Now we can say, hey, you did refer them, but you weren't eligible for a bonus because that person was previously employed by the business, and our policy says that's not allowed, right? In terms of earning the bonus, that is. So automation doesn't not only makes it easier for the administrators, but it also makes it much easier or much more engaging and respectful for the employee. Because I think everybody has a horror story of getting kind of stiffed on a referral bonus, right? So, hey, I referred my buddy and, like, I have no idea what happened, but now he's working here and you didn't pay me, right? So it kind of solves it for both the business and for the employee.
When the business, however, goes back to an employee and says, "This person had already worked here," how far back are they going? Because typically when you're an agency and you're working with a company, they'll go back maybe, what, 6 months, up to a year.
Yeah, it's and all of that's configurable, right? So that and that's where this gets really hard, especially in large enterprise. Everyone has their own way of doing things. They have their own weird policies. And I mean, just think about how customized an ATS gets for a large business. So having that br- like honoring all of that in software that without any custom code can be very difficult. Took us a long time to get there, but I'm very thankful that we're there now. They can configure that. So what I see most common is 12 months. If they've worked there in the last 12 months, their policy will say it still allows them to be referred. They can still apply for the job. They're just not honoring the bonus for the employee on that side.
But if the employee, that former employee has been gone longer than 12 months, most of them will honor the employee.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So the
And
same.
I'd say only about, like, in that particular example, probably only about 30-40% of our businesses even care about that. A lot of them, that's not part of their policy.
Right, right. Yeah, if you're bringing people back, I know a couple of years ago, we had a client who wanted us to reach out to people who had left within the last year or 2. Of course, we were working on a project basis, not on a commission basis. However, they did want to have those people come back. So I would imagine if a company, for example, a company that may have merged with another company, or maybe somebody else has acquired them, right? And they lost some employees and they want to bring some of them back. I would imagine they'd have to make some concessions then to get those people back if they're trying to hire them through other employees.
Oh, 100%. And you're leading into, like, another point, which is before our product, most employees have no idea that that's even a thing, right? Like, "Oh, well, you care if they've worked here before?" Like, they don't know the policy like the TA professionals do. So, bringing that information to the front and making it very easy for the employee to know what qualifies, what doesn't, that's been super helpful in creating kind of more happier employees and, like, more proactive referrers, I should call it. Like, they're participating now on a much more engaging level because they understand how to participate and it's very easy, right? Where before it's just like, here's a name, and then, like, you have no idea what happens. And usually you find out at the worst time, which is, where's my money? Oh, well, we're not going to give you your money, right? It's some very nuanced part of our policy means that you weren't eligible for it, and we spent 10 man hours to figure that out, right? So
Yeah, that would be the tricky part, and then trying to have those same employees refer other candidates for other positions when they've been rejected on an employee referral bonus that they thought that they were entitled to.
yeah, 100%. And that's it's there's a I've seen the weirdest things, right? Like there's I mean, we deal with customers that have, what do we call it? Like, basically, like, they'll still honor referrals even after the person's applied for the job, just because so many times they're in a situation where Bob applies for the job, and then an hour later, I'm like, "Oh, you're my buddy Bob," right? Because either because he told me he applied, or because I told him and he forgot to put my name or something like that. So having a period of time where you'd still honor even if things go out of order, like, those are the weird nuance things that we've really gotten into this past year. In what that reflects is, like, these are the things that drive the TA team crazy, right? Because when you have 100,000 employees and you have 300 examples of what I just talked about, people banging on your door, it's just a waste of time. Like, we're okay, we'll honor it this time, right? So they're just building that now into the automation and into the policies to be in error. Like, they're favoring the employee with these policies more often than not, but still allowing things to be like the gray areas are still being accounted for.
How are you I should say, let me ask 2 questions. Number 1, how are you training people to use your product internally? And how are your customers training their employees on using the product?
Yeah, for sure. So that I just walked out of a meeting with my dev team and we are talking about some changes we're making. I'm a firm believer that software should be intuitive. Like, you should know, like, when you go to play music on a music player, you should know what the play button does and where it's at, right? I know it's a very simple example, but if I log into a referral product, I should know how to send a referral, right? So I'll leave that there for a second. When we work with our customers, the tech is usually, although it may feel like the hardest part because that's our part where we're involved, is usually the easiest part for a large organization. Getting people to know about it and understand, it's not really even how to use it. It's just like that this is even a thing. That's the battle. And we work with, I mean, enormous customers that some, maybe everybody has an email address, and in others, the only way to communicate with a couple 100,000 employees is through postcard, right? They don't have a company email. So rather than like maybe a training problem, it's more of a marketing and communication problem. Some customers, we have features that will like auto invite people when they start the organization. Welcome to Acme Company. Here's join our referral program. Start earning money today. Those customers are great. They can use technology to solve their problems. When you're a large business, the smallest things that seem so simple are such an uphill battle. Corporate communications can be a real pain, right? Oh, well, you're not allowed to email them on this day because we send, 3 other emails the day before, right? So like these weird nuanced things. So now with our administrators, I promise I'm building up to an answer here. That with our administrators, it's really for the most part the admin team's not. It's all automated. So there is going to be somebody that's going to be spot checking things, helping employees, and then also working with payroll to make sure that everything's lining up and executing the right way per their processes. But for the most part, I mean, most of our customers, our administrators don't even touch it. We have all these cool features, they don't even log in because everything's fully automated, right? Now, on the employee side, once they know about it, it should be very intuitive from there, right? I should refer somebody. I should go to see what status they're in, right? Are they being interviewed or not? Was I eligible or not? Then ultimately, when they're hired, I should see that, and then I should see when I'm going to get paid on it, right? So it's not rocket science on that front. It's getting the data to them and making sure it's the right data, which is kind of the hard part. But this is such a mind-blowing experience for employees coming from. I mean, I just worked with a customer that was still relying on their locations to fax in a form that their employees fill out. They fax it into corporate, and then corporate processes it. Crazy, right? So we go from that experience to like this becomes a bank account for the employees. So we have that added benefit that they are eager to use the product because they're directly benefiting from it. I mean, what one of the that helps with kind of the training, right? Which is one, if it's an intuitive interface, it's good. But two, if they're getting something out of it, they'll figure it out too, right? It's not just like, hey, employee, download another app and use this thing that's going to annoy you. It's, hey, do you want $2,000? Right? Like, so, because I can give you $2,000 and like you can watch it happen the whole way. So, like, we create that journey. And another really cool outcome of that we found is that it takes a one-time experience of just here's my buddy, good luck, like filling out the form and then faxing it in. Now it turns it into a daily and weekly experience. They're getting updates as things progress and as things change. So going back to your question, I may not know how to check bonuses right away, but once I get somebody that's now eligible for a bonus, it's going to alert me, hey, you can see it here. Like come in and check out your bonus progress. So good software should always be intuitive enough, but having that carrot in front of the employee is a really powerful thing when it comes to getting usage without people fumbling.
When I worked for Motorola back a zillion years ago, we had what was called the Bounty Hunter program. And this was before anything was automated. And we used to set up tables with all sorts of swag, coffee cups or t-shirts or things like that to give away. Plus the promise of the bonus if someone's referral got hired. So that was the way that they advertise it. Now I would imagine you mentioned when companies are hiring people that they're letting them know about the program, but what about spreading that word besides through communications, especially if communications is going to limit the outgoing messages about the program? How else are they advertising it to their current employees?
For sure, for sure. It really depends on the type of business. They're going to have their own challenges, the type of business and type of employee, right? Some email blasts work great. You can do campaigns and provide these incentives. Communicating with employees through technology is easy when the employees are used to using technology. Um, However, I mean, like all of our customers have a corporate component, but even like in healthcare, like you have people that use technology all the time, but they're not checking emails on it, right? They're using it for other things. So you got to get creative, and it often is specific. But my favorite part of this is that usually the ones that are least able to embrace the automations of like, hey, like your first day of work, we put you in a drip campaign and tell you about it. It's like, oh, we can't do that. Corporate communications won't do that. But they're the same ones doing like baking sales and giveaways saying like, oh, like here's a cookie, join our referral program, right? Which is way more effort, boots on the ground. But it's that and everything in between. So I mean, a very effective thing is posters in the break room. Have a QR code, text this number, uh, things like that. Just making it top of mind. We had one customer, a lot of like at home caregivers, but they had central locations with the like kiosks, and they all the kiosks had screensavers that would talk about this, right? So there's plenty of different creative ways, but usually it falls into what's the business able and comfortable to do, and then also where is the employee, right? How are you getting a hold of them? It's the ones that are not checking email where it gets difficult, but there's whether it be text, email, posters, there's a lot of ways to get to them.
Another question I have is around employee retention. How are you, I guess, pushing the ability to increase employee retention with your tool?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing I try to pound into my team is that we're 100% an ROI driven sales process. So we people that do not buy our product hoping to be better in some measurable metric are bad customers for us. And we sold them stuff. Like we're like, hey, you have money, we have a product, you can buy it. But if they're not looking at this strategically to move the needle in some way, whether that's time, cost, retention, whatever it is, if they're not looking to do that, they're usually not a good fit for us. And we again have learned that pretty intimately. But as we were going through this, always pushing like, hey, you can save big with Aaron. Some of our larger customers were like, "Hey, we actually made the case that like looking at our own stats, referral hires today stay 25% longer than everybody else, right?" And Sherm says up to 50% is their official stat. The lowest I've seen it is 25%. So what we have started talking to people about is look at your own data today, or we can help you look at it. And are your employee referrals staying longer or not? And I've never had someone say they're not, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that that you can imagine. But I mean, culture fit, a better vetting process is not happening through it. They kind of know your dirty laundry coming in. Like their buddies are telling them, hey, this is what's really going on here. Right. So and they know some people, so that's good. So there's just things that are a little bit stronger and more flushed out than like a traditional hire. So it makes sense that they stay longer. It's not the magic of Aaron, it's the magic of referrals in general. Our customers started telling us like this is a huge part of our case was we can if we get 5,000 more hires from referrals, 2,500 of them are going to last 6 months longer than everybody else, which is going to have a huge impact on turnover costs, right? So we make that a big part of our conversations. It does depend on the business. The lower, more like kind of hourly worker, high turnover volume that you get, it's just kind of accepted. So like they want to move the needle, and they often we've had a few customers that didn't even realize that until later. They're like, "Hey, you across the board have changed turnover by 6%," which may not sound like a big number, but when you're 60,000 people and you're hiring 40,000 a year, 50,000 a year, 6% is a pretty big dent, right? So they did 6% just in that one example. That's a specific customer. They bought for a completely different reason, and then now they're like, "Whoa!" Like there's all these other benefits that we're realizing. Um, but yeah, it's a big part of it. I mean, you only have to recruit. You recruit more, the worse you are at retention, right? So if you're better at retention, the stress of recruiting is less, and that's where everybody's trying to get.
So, who's training the employees how to use the platform once they're hired or once they're engaged with it?
Yeah, so and that's the thing. Like we have plenty of features that will help onboard them in multiple ways. It really depends. We have a few parts of our product. So referrals is our bread and butter. We do have an internal mobility component. We just launched a recognition component as well. Part of these have like self onboarding, like check marks. Like so, hey, like do this next, do that next. And it's like great, you're fully onboarded. So tactics like that are great. We do most of our customers have like a 1 to 2 minute how to video. So when wherever they're putting this content, or even on the login page, they're having, hey, here's how you use it. Click here, do this. The full employee experience should be no more than a minute, right? They get in, they find the job, and ideally they're only served up jobs that matter to them. So we can create this like real curated experience. They hit refer, they put in their person's information, it sends it off, things are good to go, right? So it's more about the content created around that. Once you get their attention, make sure that anything they need is kind of there and very self-explanatory. The other big thing that we do that's unique in this space is that we provide full live chat support for all of our customers and users. And honestly, that's more of a tactic to just prevent any like snags and frustration, right? Hey, like, why didn't I get paid yet? Oh, like, well, we noticed like your policy is this, and you actually have to wait another week or whatever, whatever. So simple, probably not real example, but like it's having someone there for them to ask questions to is already completely different than before. They have no idea who to talk to. I mean, think about $20 an hour worker in a 100,000 person business. Like, they're not going to call the talent acquisition team, maybe HR, but they don't even know how to get a hold of talent acquisition. So just us having a live person there in every part of the experience helps significantly for them to get on it as well. But it's usually just getting them in there, and then everything else is kind of we the horse is already at the water, so we're just showing them how to drink, right?
Now you mentioned earlier too the number $2,000 for a placement referral. Some companies I know kind of do a sliding scale based on the positions that these people are referring colleagues to, right? So, what do you see as the averages? I mean, do you see most companies with a sliding scale or more of a flat fee?
Definitely a sliding scale. It is industry specific. The harder it is to make the hire, the more skilled the worker it is, it can get very high. We on the low end, just like hourly, give us anybody 250 to 500 is common. M- Across the board in our system, we're seeing 1,500 to 2,000. Now, these are usually maybe not necessarily salaried roles, but they are roles that they do not want you to leave, right? Like they may have 12 months, 100% 12-month turnover, but like that employee is the product at that point, so they need to keep you there as long as they can. Um, in healthcare, you're going to see that start veering more towards like $5,000 a role. When you start and when you start getting into specific healthcare rules or doctor rules, 10,000 to 20,000 is not uncommon. The other one, actually, the highest referral bonuses we see in the system are usually tech roles involving top secret security clearance. So you're getting a very specific on not only your requirements for the job, but also now clearances with the government that you need to have. And those are very expensive hires to do if you're using a headhunter, right? So that's where they would rather give you $20,000 than pay somebody 60, right? Those are the other beauty of that is that every example I just gave you, you're tapping into communities and audiences where people that with top secret security clearance know people with top secret security clearance. People that are nurses know other nurses. So those are you're getting into the passive workforce that way, and that's again, the only other way to do that is to really chase people down, which usually gets really expensive, right? So might as well have your employees do it for you.
You were talking a while ago about the employees that are referring people, and those people that come in as referrals typically stay 25% longer than other employees. What about the people who are doing the referring? Have you guys done any data on how long they stay? Because oftentimes, if they're referring people in, I would imagine they're staying longer as well, correct?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, and this is leading up to a big thing that we're passionate about right now. Predictive analytics is the future in so many ways, but definitely in talent acquisition, right? So having data point, and this is one of the beauties of being we sit in the middle of the tech stack. I don't want to say uniquely, but in a way that a lot of businesses aren't probably because it's a lot easier not to do this. But like we talk to the ATS, we talk to the HRS, we talk to payroll. All three of those systems have some piece of data that the other system doesn't have, but you need all of it for this to work, right? For it to be fully automated. So marrying that data together gives you a perspective that other systems do not have just because they're not looking at the different data sets. So one thing like we started, and I don't have numbers to share with you right now, but just looking at like the correlation between like referral activity and then when they leave the organization and how long that is. And also depending on like, are they referring, and these are like great problems for AI. Like, are they referring to like their location to other locations? Like, are they trying to build people that they want to work with or not work with? And then ultimately, like, how does that affect their tenure at the organization? Right. And this is much easier to measure with your most active refers, which are typically new hires, right? Because like if you're there for 10, 15 years, it probably doesn't matter if you refer or not. But when you're new to the organization, how do we make you that 10 or 15-year person? And there's data points there that like humans don't understand, but AI does, right? So no promises on anything from us yet, but those are things that like we're looking at our data a lot differently now to just say like what is sitting in here that we can learn from. We have We've done over $300 million in referral payments. We've done 2.8 million employees come through the system. We've had well over 1 million jobs posted, millions of referrals, right? So these are data points that are like you kind of unique, right? And we want to figure out how we can help our customers learn from them. And like my dream is, and we'll see if we ever get this to be a product, is hey, Bob's going to leave in 3 months, right? Bob's a huge flight risk. Because of this, we've seen that when people do these things and interact this way and then drop off or not drop off or whatever, there's a high likelihood that they leave the organization within 6 months, right? So those are the kinds of things that I think that people are hungry for, and we'll see if we get there. We don't want to veer too far from our core offering, but we do want to use our data to learn from it.
Oh my God. Mike, do you have competition in this space?
There's a few players out there. There's been a good handful of players before us. The it's a unique space to be in because it's such a point solution, right? And what that means is that there's always the ability for point solutions to get some traction, but to take that to the scale that we've taken it to, we can confidently say that there's been no referral product in the world that's made it this far. So we're very proud of that. That's one thing that when I started, like, I was looking at the competition, like, man, I can't believe like if I could be like that, like I'd be on top of the world. And we've now passed as companies and they've either sold or gone out of business or whatever it may be. Um, so yeah, there's some great products out there, but the hardest part is taking this to scale to meet all those unique needs that I talked about earlier. People can say it, but doing it is extremely technically difficult. And then this amount of data that we're dealing with, it just like for a startup, like really becomes, I don't want to say problematic, but like it's something you have to be very aware of. Like you're dealing with millions of users in well over 100 countries in 20 different currencies, speaking 16 different languages. Like those create problems that you have to solve that you never like we never went out to solve those problems, but out of necessity for the core product you do. So yeah, we're very proud of where we are now. The journey is far from over, and I'm happy that there are other products out there to help build this space. Not it. There's so many companies out there that are not thinking strategically about referrals, so competition's good on that front. But yeah, I mean, we're full steam ahead to continue leading the charge, and we're very proud of it.
You should be. You should be. I mean, there are a number of companies, well, that I've interviewed over the last several months, and I'm just wondering how many of those companies, software companies that are ATS driven. I mean, I'm trying right now, in fact, to try out, I'm trying out, I should say, different software tools just, I mean, to see what's going to work best for my business moving forward, especially ATSs. How many ATS companies are out there who have come to you and said, "Hey, how can we then like have some sort of an API or whatnot into our ATS as part and to make it kind of a what would you go a more integrated system, I
For
suppose."
sure. I mean, the great thing about a lot of the big players is that they've already realized that while some of them are trying to be everything, like they know that they need to play nice enough with everybody else just to so that their customers can fill the gaps. I remember a very large one when we were in our very early days called us and said, "Hey, one of our very like well-known customers is going to leave because they're frustrated with the referral process. Can you talk to them?" And I was like, "You guys have declined me from your marketplace 5 times now, but I'm glad you're calling me to make sure that we can sell to your customer." But so stories like that always it's fun to look back on. But yeah, so for the most part they're all very flexible. The smaller ones are tough to deal with just because they haven't matured as much in terms of the marketplace front. But we have well over 30 integrations. There's like a couple hundred ATSs in the world of varying sizes. I mean, most of our customer base boils down to three ATSs, only because when you're in enterprise, I mean, Workday is going to be very well known. We have a great foothold with iSIMs. On I'd say the smaller side of our customer base, Greenhouse is very popular. But we have some customers that have, I mean, they've integrated with stuff that I've never even heard of. We've designed our product to basically pull in the data regardless of where it's coming from. As long as we can figure that part out, and we've invested heavily in that. We standardize it, bring it in, and then we can do the right thing for it. So we really don't care what's on the other side. I think to date we built 30 some connections, and I mean I couldn't even name 30 ATSs right now, but they're on the website.
Oh, I can imagine. Good for you. This is amazing. So you have taken a concept from 6 years ago and you've built a machine basically that is and like you said, your customers are kind of chasing you through the process to customize it for whatever their needs are, right? Which then translates to other customers who might be able to use the same iterations for what their needs are. This is great news. And I've always loved employee referral programs. Like I said, number of years ago, I just can remember employee referral programs being advertised, like you said, though, where you had posters or you had people that would set up tables at the entrance to the building or in the cafeteria to advertise it, that type of thing. But it wasn't integrated. It didn't have the kind of app feel, if you would, that you
Yeah,
have now.
it cumbersome, and they weren't kept in the loop, right? Like, part of it's just pulling back that curtain. Like, it's a black there's a bit it's the Wizard of Oz is back there. Nobody knows what's happening. You need to pull that back and say, "This is how the process works. Participate." Now that you're more likely to less likely to get frustrated, more likely to want to actually try to help with the recruiting aspect.
There's a lot of discussion right now about upskilling talent. I'm sure you've heard that. As the talent acquisition industry upskills itself and its practitioners for new roles, more advisory roles, that type of thing. And especially you mentioned enterprise level companies, those internal recruiters, I would imagine, would be very pro a system like this where they can help bring in the talent and have, I guess, tighter time to fill metrics, that type of thing. If they had this type of a tool to advertise to their employees, especially like you said, when they're coming on board. Oftentimes, the internal employees, I know I did, as when I was working for companies as a contract recruiter, as we were hiring people internally, we would ask them for referrals and offer up a referral bonus, that type of thing for names. So,
Yeah, on the recruiter front, it always comes down to, can you make their lives easier? Because like they're dealing with so much. I mean, most businesses now probably have higher recruiting needs and less recruiters than they did 2 years ago, right? So that's a struggle that everybody's dealing with. One interesting stat that seems to hold true in multiple industries. Usually, when you're doing like traditional hires to your job board, you're looking anywhere from 50 to 65 applicants per hire. Across the board in our system, it's 8 applicants per 1 hire, which is, I mean, when you just think about just how many less resumes and people you have to look at, and obviously you put in filtering technology there as well, but like it's a reduction of noise, right? And when you can reduce the noise, you can make the process better for everybody. The recruiters then can pass that along to the candidate experience. So there's definitely a trickle down effect that I think is pretty impactful. But I mean, doing more with less is always the goal, right?
you bet. Oh, I can imagine. If I were working internally in the company, I would be all over it and
Yeah.
try, well, like you
Oh,
said, to help.
we've had multiple instances where employees have earned more than their salary in referral bonuses than they have for their job, right? Especially in healthcare, right? So you'd have administrators that are referring nurses and they get $5,000 a hire. It does not take a ton to add up to having a more meaningful paycheck. But how great is that? Like that is money the organization would have spent elsewhere, but they've given it to that employee, and now they're drooling to make the next hire or the next referral, right? So they're super engaged. They're out there promoting you left and right. And they need the tech to make it easy so that they can stay engaged with the process, right?
And still do their job.
All right, that's a small
That
part of it
that
too.
would be another problem, though. I guess maybe it's a good problem, but okay. Now, yeah, we hired you to do X, Y, Z, not recruit.
Yeah, but I'm so good at recruiting, I just can't stop.
That's right. That's right. Well, I've always said everyone's a recruiter. Everyone. So it's just doing a good balance of your time. This is great information. How do people reach out to you? How do they find you?
Yeah, I mean, check us out on erinapp.com, ERINAPP.com. Also follow us on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there as well. I've been taking a little bit of a break. I'm trying to like disconnect from social media, but I post a lot of the cool things we do there. So check us out. We have a lot of cool initiatives happening right now. I mean, with some charity work that we're doing and some new products that we're building. So connect with us, and we'd love to get people's feedback and participation anywhere we can.
Great information. Any other comments?
I think we covered it all. I mean, I'll leave you with one final thought. One thing I'm big on. I do think talent acquisition is just one of those industries where we're not really ready for the impact of AI. AI is coming in hard. And what I love about referrals is that it keeps humans in the process, right? So as we look to the future here, and one day our AI overlords are running everything, it referrals are just a great way to keep that human focus and that connection for really bringing people in a meaningful way and not just passing them through kind of an automated AI experience. So think
It
about
makes
that.
it makes a greater candidate experience versus so transactional like you get with other ways of recruiting.
Exactly. And I'm a huge proponent of AI, but this is one of the industries that are just like it's going to get messed up. We're going to overinvest and we're going to have to pull back a bit. That's my guess.
Sounds like you have a great tool. Good for you guys.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And I'm glad to know about it as we move forward into the new year and whatnot. We start building up more client business because I think that from what I hear, things will be a little bit busier in 2025 than we had this year.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Yeah, we all do.
The one metric that matters to us is unemployment, right? Like unemployment by industry. That's all we focus on.
Well, good for you, Mike. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you sharing your company and the technology with us. Congrats and good luck.
Thank you so much. Really, really enjoyed being here. Nice talking to you.
All right, you too.